our province's leading fundraising consultants, founder and CEO of Newman Consulting. With more than 27 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, she's helped numerous organizations raise millions of dollars through capital campaigns, major gift solicitation, grant writing, and varied fundraising initiatives. Nonprofit organizations benefit from her dedication, organization, problem solving, leadership, and management skills. She is both a coach and a cheerleader, and she's driven by her client success and growth. Rhonda has worked with several nonprofits in our community, including us, and Edmonton, and it looks like some of you are here today. We know you will get significant value out of our webinar today. If you want to dive deeper into these topics, we do encourage you to reach out to Rhonda, as we only have an hour today, unfortunately. Volunteer Strathcona is also very keen to develop more webinars, so if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see, please let me know. Our next upcoming webinar is on the 14th, Managing Change with Paul Nahirny. Information is available on our website. So with that being said, I will pass the metaphorical microphone to Rhonda.
Well, thank you, Jen. Okay. I do see a lot of familiar names in the chat box here and on the top of my screen. And I know that there was about 45 of us, wasn't there, that were registered for today? So point being, there's always something else to be done, and this can be, we're recording it and sending it out, so we can always listen to it while we're walking the dog, podcasting. So awesome technology, what it can do, right? So I think we can all agree that in the last 6 months, so much has changed, but even currently we are living in an extraordinary times. We really are. All of us have been affected, but predominantly as nonprofits, what we're talking about here today, we've had all kinds of things have happened to us, you know, so this is just a snapshot of what actually has transpired. Service was disrupted, literally, in an afternoon, and I do remember where I was when this happened, where we were told to stop doing what we're doing. The isolation mandate orders came down, and doors started to close. And so literally like this, service was disrupted to both our clients, our communities. Then we all started immediately trying to figure out, well, maybe I'm being facetious, not all of us immediately. I think I'll speak for myself, sat for a few minutes, about a week with my head under the covers going, well, what now? What do we do now? But we all started to start thinking about how we're going to revamp our programming. If we have to be physically distancing, how do we actually deliver client programming? So more than 50%, and I think that this is a low stat, of Canadians have transitioned from in-person programs to online format. And honestly, now we're also starting to see an increased need. Most of us, and we'll talk about this coming up here in the future, has seen that the need for a mission is actually increasing. We all started working remotely. Lots of us did. Some of us were used to it, some of us weren't. It started to mean things like unexpected costs, Zoom accounts, PPE, new technology. And then there are the folks that are around the table here today too that started to see immediately some decreased earned revenue. And when I talk about what I remember about this happening when the order came down, I was actually with a client at the time who operates a theater, and they're building a new theater here in town. And we were at a government relations meeting, and we had just met with a government official. And we got back into the car to debrief, and she was reading her text to say, we're immediately not opening for public, we're no longer doing shows. And so it was a gobsmacked moment to go, there went our revenue projections for the rest of the year. Also, there was some reallocation of government funding. There are some operational grants that a lot of us were used to receiving that the government quickly just had to say, well, we need to reallocate this to emergencies. So that funding became less. Not to mention the number of boards, and we will chat about this too, again, because this has come up numerously, of boards or supervisors, managers, EDs who've said, we can't possibly ask for money right now. We can't. So here organizations are starting to deal with disruption and finding new ways of having to deliver services, new expenses, decreased income, but let's not ask for more money. Also, with some of those decreased revenues, there were also layoffs. And then the people who were left to do the work, they had to increase workloads. Sadly, some people are also depleting into the reserves, and the end is not in sight. Right? We have continuing conversations about the economy declining and the recession, not to mention political and social unrest globally. So when, what a sunny picture that is, hey? What does this mean? And I know that's what we're all here today to talk about. Also, I wanted to snapshot some of this because each of you were asked to answer a few questions when you had registered for this program, this webinar. And so here's the results of 2 of those questions. We asked, because of COVID, has the need for your organization's mission remained the same, decreased, increased? And the majority of you, 60% of you over here in this section have said it has actually increased. Your need has increased. We also asked financially, how will your organization compare this year to last? And roughly 52% of you here are saying it's going to be the same or better than last year. And roughly 50% of you are saying, no, it's not going to, it's going to be worse than last year. So for interest's sake, I looked at a report that was published by the Calgary Chamber of Volunteer Organizations, so it's CCVO, and their report was titled From Emergency to Opportunity. And they had a compilation of research from surveys that they had been a part of here in Alberta, but also across Canada. And so they're reporting, I don't know if you've seen this just pop up on the screen, but they're reporting that 73% of Canadian nonprofits have an increased demand for service. So in this COVID time, nonprofit sector is being looked to step up. And at the same time, the same report went on to say that as much as 85% of nonprofits are experiencing reduced revenue from fundraising and 78% reduced from earned income. Bit of a quandary for sure. So there is really, I put it on here, keep calm and carry on, because I don't know what our choice is, to be frank. There is no denying that our sector is facing challenging times, but I like to be an optimist because truly wherever there's challenge, there's also opportunity. And as such, we also ask this question to all of you. What positive things or learnings have come from the COVID crisis for your organization? And so some of you, I put some of the comments on here, you finding new ways of doing things, bringing our organization together, getting clearer and more focused on our mission. And what the word that is a takeaway for me here is solutions. That this, we're, as an industry, as a sector, we were innovative and we've come up with some solutions. And I even like that more because I'm sure some of you have heard this too, that problems don't attract money, but solutions do. And we are all capable of doing that, and we've been doing that. We also asked you to tell us a little bit about the challenges that you've you've been experiencing because of COVID. And it is quite possibly because you were all signed up here for this webinar that your mindset was as such. But the overarching theme that you had shared with us was really that COVID has affected your funding. So what does the future look like for our sector in terms of fundraising? I pulled together some snapshots of what the industry experts are saying. And so this one here, this is a snapshot for a survey done, and it was a survey done by one of the states called give.org. And they surveyed donors. And so I highlight this because there is a discrepancy between what donors are projecting is going to happen and what fundraisers are projecting is going to happen. So this is a report that the donors had reported that an astounding 84% of the people that they surveyed, and of course, all survey results hold them with a grain of salt, but an astounding 84% said they're expecting to either maintain their giving level or give more. That's crazy. And so I guess it's the 16% was going to give less. And their reason for giving less was saying that they had lost income due to the outbreak, or just truly feeling the need to be financially conservative. I also looked this up for us too. What are the fundraisers saying? And it was quite interesting because there was a number of webinars that I was involved in right around the June and July time period. And everybody was like, no, terrible, 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 terrible. Well, this is one of the challenges with COVID is things are changing regularly. And so this was a recent survey that was done in August, I believe it was. And it's, asking fundraisers across, again, the United States, fundraisers, consultants, and there just was they were asking, again, all from multi-sector nonprofits to consultants, and saying, so what do you think is going to happen over the next 3 years? And so the projected growth will be there. 61% were pretty reasonable. We're reasonably confident that philanthropy overall will grow in the next 3 years. There is a slump, though, in the fall coming, which we're in right now. So there's no doubt some groups are falling short, and it doesn't take long to look through the headlines or on the news to see what's happening. And again, speaking of statistics, I've seen everything from 30% of a decline, and that was from a report on Imagine Canada, to this report from CCVO, and they're suggesting a decline as high as 85%. So definitely organizations are hurting. And then on the other hand, we have groups that are hitting it out of the ballpark, absolutely out of the ballpark. So charity off the charts amid coronavirus, Pedal for Portage fundraiser, huge success despite COVID. And then of course, there's our own homegrown fundraiser, the Oilers Foundation. They went from a $3.2 million record set to selling 50-50 tickets to 14.3 million. And actually, I think it went over 15 million. What? That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. So I'm going to put you all to work here right now. And I think on your chat or your reactions piece of your screen, mine looks different than yours, so bear with me, but on your reaction piece of the screen, show the thumbs up if you, just as a quick poll, if you actually bought 50-50 tickets from the Oilers Foundation. And Jen, you'll have to tell me what you see. Thumbs up if you bought 50-50 tickets from the Oilers Foundation.
The raise hand function is what we're looking for. Okay, I'm seeing lots of hands so far. Mine included, though. I would say at least half the attendees have purchased 50-50 tickets.
Fascinating, isn't it? Like fascinating. So, we can put lots of caveats around it. Well, that's a raffle. They could have been winning something. It was online. We're all online. There's lots of reasons. And so let's get to talking a little bit more about where do we go from here? Like I had actually a screen about pivot, new normal, unprecedented, uncharted, all words that I think have become part of our, you're muted. There's been a few memes out there, which are quite, bang on actually about what we're experiencing right here with COVID. So where do we go from here? We're going to do our first poll. And so maybe Jen, you can help us to describe this a little bit, but here's the thing. The pandemic has changed our reality, like straight out. We all know that. And as we are planning our road to recovery, because that's what we're doing over the next 1 to 2 years, we need to adjust our plan. We need to review our fundraising plan. That's step one. So one of the first questions I've got going on here is government subsidy program. So everybody please chime in. Is your organization accessing any government subsidy program? Because there's everything from the CEBA program, which is the Canada Emergency Business Loan Account, which is that interest-free loan. And then there's CEWS, the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. I know there was also some rent subsidies. So let's see. I can't see it working. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, we're almost there. We got 78% have voted. Wait a few more seconds. Oh, Jerome says he doesn't see a polling option. It's okay. Okay. I'm going to end the polling and share the results. Can everyone see them?
Yeah. Interesting. Good news. Good news for number 2. Okay. So number 1, it says, is your organization accessing any government subsidy program? And I can see the results here. It's saying that 67% are saying yes. 33% are saying no. Okay. I hope that you knew about the programs, and maybe it's just in fact that you weren't eligible. What I was really interested was this question. If yes, is this revenue critical to your organization's financial sustainability? And so no, not sure, and yes. So only 25% of us, just a few of us, are saying that yes, it's critical. Very good. Good. Because here's the point. They're temporary. They're temporary. And because I think it was even yesterday that the government had announced that they are pulling back. Like, they have to at some point. So if we're relying on it, and you know, I'm very pleased that this has come out. I'm sure very thankful, as most of you are, that the government has stepped up where they can as the stopgap. But that's what it is. It's a stopgap. So it's time to start looking at what your recovery looks like. So let's start by reviewing your fundraising plan. Okay. So what does this mean? We need to assess the programs that you've got. Taking a look at the overall, how are you planning to raise this money? How were you planning to raise the money? And now let's take a look at how we're going to adjust that. What are your strengths? Where are there some places where you need to invest some more? And really and truly, where are there some that you just want to discontinue? You know, some of the activities that you may want to just discontinue and reinvest. And I know what initially comes to mind for me, and probably for some of you, is events. Which of our events is this make sense? You know, can we do something different with it? What I want to caution you there before you throw away an event is just to, when you're evaluating this, just make sure that it's more than just the financial end of things. Take a look at it. Does that particular event also play a more important role in donor engagement? Maybe you don't make the net that you're supposed to, or that you wish that you could, but is there a donor engagement role or a cultivation or stewardship role? Just keep that in mind when you're looking at what are we going to keep, what are we going to throw away. Next, critically important that we do not rely on a single source of income. Okay, and if you do this, if you are doing this right now, you're putting your organization and the clients that you serve in jeopardy, because anything can happen. I think that's what we've also learned here from COVID, is that anything can happen, but that we're least expecting it. But in reviewing any of your plans or your changes, make sure that it represents multiple sources of income. I wish I could see faces so that I could see nodding and go, yes, that makes sense. You know, I wanted to pick up on this too, because it's not just the fact that this is about this diversify your funding sources is not just about COVID. It's not a COVID specific issue, because quite honestly, a lot of us here around the table have experience this regularly, almost every couple of years, when there is a change in elected officials. Because if we are vulnerable on government funding, that agenda can change and at a given time, and we've seen it before. So the lesson here is, you know, diversify, so that when we face times of crisis, that we've done what we can in advance to mitigate any one particular area letting us down. Also, when you're looking at your plan for this, look at your short term. You know, you need to address the fact that we are physical distancing. Like, that's a reality. So look forward and go, what are we going to be doing instead? Also, you need to plan for a dominating digital environment, right? We are living behind our laptops and our screens and our cameras and microphones. So it's important that your plan is addressing, how are you leveraging this? How are you accessing the reality of today? And what I'm going to say, don't throw out old traditional methods either, like don't get rid of the offline programs. I'm not at all suggesting that. In fact, some groups, and I think it was the Canadian Cancer Society that was recently talking about their direct mail program has sustained them. And during this COVID crisis, you know, although while they were canceling events left, right, and center, and there went that revenue, it was the direct mail that sustained them. And also, which for some of us too, they're like, really, it's direct mail? But everybody was home and they were opening their mail. And that's another point that we'll talk about is calling donors because they were home, you know. And as we open, things are changing a little bit more, but don't ever just abandon the offline activities as well. Donors address donor acquisition, engagement, solicitation, and stewardship. So this is like a checklist that I would like you to think about, that I would recommend that you think about when you're addressing your plan. Are we doing all of this? Are our activities going to be addressing donor acquisition? For those of you who know me, I call this the pipeline. It's having donors in, and if you're not continuing to put donors in, then how do we advance them and keep them with the organization, which is also just as critically as the stewardship, right? So when you look at your plan, what are we doing to really address donor acquisition, engagement? Let's not forget the asking, the solicitation, and also the stewardship. So just put that lens on when you're starting to look at your plan going forward. Say, okay, do I check the boxes? And lastly, I am begging of you, invest, don't cut. You know, when you're addressing your fundraising plan or your organization, it is possible that groups will say, you know, let's cut some marketing expenses. Let's cut fundraising. And I don't know how many of you here can remember the 2008 financial crisis that we were in. Thousands of organizations folded after the 2008 crisis. And they didn't fold, you know, at the time that it was all happening. They folded a year and a half later because they had forgot that lack of fundraising had actually caught up with them because they weren't continuing to stoke the pipeline. So the goal there is stay the course. Stay the course. Refine your case for support. So as organizations have changed your response to COVID, donors have changed their perspectives as well during this crisis. So keep this in mind as you're looking at how do we move forward as an organization. Take a look back at your case statement. Now, I hope that's because all of you have your case statement on the side of your desk already and you look at it regularly. I say that tongue in cheek, but if you don't have a case statement, that's another one of those to-do things that you need to put together. Because every organization I work with, it's one of the first things we do. I kind of call it the cheat sheet, but it's actually a cheat document because it's more than just the one pager. But it's a case for support explains to your prospective donors why your organization exists and how their gift to you will be put to work in achieving what your mission is. It's if those of us who are business minded, it would be like a prospectus for your nonprofit. So if you're interested, maybe, again, some of you would have this, but if you're interested, there's a great online tool through, because I use it all of the time still. It's with, I'm gonna forget the name of our Charity Village. Okay, so it's right with Charity Village in their resource section. There is an outline for a case for support that I've used for years and continue to, even as much as yesterday. It's the guideline of questions to say, here has your organization, how does your organization do this? What makes your organization interesting? So maybe what we'll do, Jen, is we'll just post a link to that maybe in the follow-up.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you haven't done it, make sure you do it. But if you do have one, take a look at it, pull it out, dust it off, because perspectives have changed. And some trends to really be aware of going forward is some of the donor trends. If they, of course, are looking to support basic needs and facilitate recovery. So if you're doing some of that, highlight that. That's important right now. Also, donors are very interested in local community perspectives. You know, it's everything from shopping local to where's my food at the restaurant, where's that sourced? Local, supporting our local economies is rising in interest. So talk about that. interest in how COVID is affecting your organization. They're interested in knowing what has, this is the disruptor that is common for all of us. It is, we are not different. We're all dealing with this. And so interestingly, they want to know, there's a trend out there where they want to know, they want to hear from you. How has your organization been affected because of COVID? There is also an increased awareness for the need for unrestricted operating support. This is good news. I think this is good news. And so now it's up to us as a sector to make sure we steward this well. All of you are very well aware that when we ask, the organization can't have an impact, it can't put on those special projects, it can't raise money for that special piece of infrastructure unless we have operating dollars to keep the doors open and the staff employed and the programs to be delivered. So unrestricted operating dollars is essential, but it's also not as sexy when it comes for donors. They think, okay, that's not impact, that's overhead, that ugly word overhead. So, you know, there has been a movement to talk less about the requirement for unrestricted operating dollars. But I'm saying with COVID, there's a peak, there's a time for us, there's an opportunity for us. A lot of granting agencies are also rethinking themselves right now, going, okay, this is critical. The nonprofit sector has an increased need in service, an increased demand, and they have less money coming in. How can we be supporting them? So, and when I say this is an opportunity for us, because now, folks, it's our opportunity to steward these donations, these grants, these unrestricted operating funds. If that's a donor, if it's a grant, it's whomever, that we steward them well and we report back. And we talk to them about this. So it's not just a given where we put the money in our jeans. Treat this with respect and with the dignity that it needs, because this is a test period. I think of it as a test period to say, is this going well for us? Can this industry use funding, unrestricted operating funding well? And they're waiting to hear from us. Also, we need to address, if your case doesn't address diversity and inclusion. What is your organization doing? And if some of you on the call here may not have anything to do with diversity issues or inclusion issues, but donors are looking to see that there's some kind of comment from your organization on this, because if you say nothing at all, then that also can give a point of reference that you're ignoring it, and that's not what they want as well. We won't talk a lot about on this today, but I think coming up, I'm not sure if Paul is on this call today, but I know that Jen, you've talked a little bit about it. Paul Naherney is doing a presentation in a couple of weeks about managing change, correct? For Volunteer Strathcona? And I know that he's talking about some interesting topics like this for the nonprofit sector, about some society issues, bigger society issues. So sign up to join him. Okay, with that being said, and you're looking at your plan and you're evaluating what has changed because of COVID, I'm going to say to you always, when it comes to seeking funding from sources other than government, of course, and other than your earned income or gaming activities, focus on individual giving, because it will continue to be, it always has been, and it will continue to be the primary source of philanthropic revenue. That may have blown some of your minds right now. Because it's interesting, whenever I start to work with a new organization, their first thoughts are, well, what corporation should we talk to? What I've included here is a chart that's a little outdated, but trust me on this one, and I've looked hard for these statistics. So this one's from 2012, so I know it's outdated, but trust me on this, this continues to be the case, that when it comes to philanthropic giving, it is coming, the majority here is from individuals, 72%, followed by foundations. So that's our private foundations that we're talking about, corporate and private foundations, but it's foundation based. Then it's bequests. So that's a plan, that's a gift in the will. And then it's corporations. Okay. So again, I'm looking out for you when you're trying to figure out how to invest your time. You're looking at your plan. Take a look to go, what are we doing for individual giving? Which brings us to this. Here's some ideas on individual donor giving programs, okay? Major donors are still willing to invest. So this is about intentionally approaching a segmentation of donors. It's about creating a special plan, I guess, because this can become complicated when we say, well, let's create and implement a major gift program and a mid-level gift program. So let me make that a little more succinct. Let's determine who those major gift prospects are. Pardon me. This is people who are already these are people that are within your database. So take a look through them, or your donor, or they're in your organization at some level. Identify who they are. This is what this is boiled down to a major gift program, is identifying who your top prospects are for multiple of reasons, their interest in you, their ability to give, their link to the organization, and then figure out a special plan for each of them on how you're going to be in touch with them for the rest of the year. That's a major gift program boiled down, simplified. I'm going to simplify the mid-level gift. So that major gift component is a very high touch point. That is knowing about that top 10. If you can handle 10, do 10. If you can handle 25, do 25. If you can handle 5, do 5. But start being conscious and intentional about stewarding and engaging these particular donors. Mid-level can be a little bit more automated, if you will. More of a sense, again, it's just an intentional review to say, we've got donors that, and again, for each of you, it's going to be different, but if you've got donors that have been giving $200 a year to $1,000 a year, and you can look to your database and you can say, hey, these are our mid-level donors. Because a lot of organizations talk to your high-level donors or your major donors, and then you also look about how you're going to do acquisition. How do we bring more in? But this is a group that is ripe to be treated well and to be moved up to your major gift level. So also take a look at your plan. This is, how do we do this? We can do this. Let's think about this intentionally. Next, because of COVID, there is a trend where organizations are looking, or pardon me, not organizations, individual donors are looking to organize their legacy. So if you don't already have a planned giving program, you need to establish one. And again, these are complex terms that don't need to be complex at all. It can be everything from a gift and a life insurance to charitable remainder trusts to something as simple as a bequest and a will. So if you don't have one, don't complicate it. This is, it's one, get a name for your program. So you can identify, so come up with that. You can do this afternoon yet. Get a name for your bequest program, create a page on your website. And again, if you had your case done, you go to your case statement, you're going to pull some content on it, and you're going to put up here why it is that you are worthy of a planned gift, a will. Make sure that your legal name is on it, and your charitable registration number if you have it, or your nonprofit number, so that when someone is, okay, so that's step 2. Step 3 is promote it and let people know that you've got this opportunity. So it's really not that hard. Point is, and there's lots, you can talk to me offline about this if you want to, but it can be done quickly, but you have to give this opportunity right now to your donors. You've all heard about the transfer of wealth. Well, it's happening right now. And there's significant advantages. And again, because of COVID, people are thinking this way. They're understanding. We're all facing our own mortality. Next, when you're coming to your plan, take a look to make sure you've got affordable and flexible options for your donors. And if you don't have a monthly donor program or a monthly giving program, again, quite simple to, and I'm being serious about this. It's quite simple to set up. Talk to me offline. We can get this developed for you. But it gives your organization stability. It's that ongoing revenue that you could expect. And so again, so many organizations during COVID were just thanking their lucky stars that this had already been developed. They had already put some initiative into this over the years, because it was it saved them. It kept them going. It's kept them afloat. So it's ongoing relationship of monthly giving. And it makes it so easy for somebody who wants to give you some money. And again, there's statistics behind it to prove all kinds of reasons on why you should do it. But at the end of the day, monthly donors give you more than if you just had annual donors or one-time donors. Next on the list, promote pledge-based giving. What I'm saying here, so that's similar again to that flexible option as a monthly giving program. just a consideration for you. It's something that we do a lot of with capital campaigns. When we go out to seek that major gift, we will say, so we come to a number that they are wanting to commit to the organization or to the project. And then they realize, but it's not just then they say, well, but we can't give you that now, because there's always such a big discrepancy about what I can give you that's in my purse versus what I can give you because I plan to do it. So a pledge-based giving might say that one of your major gifts that you've looked at and you've talked to somebody, and maybe for your organization, a major gift's $1,000, and someone who loves you and they want to give you $1,000, and they said, but they would never consider that they could just write you a check for $1,000. But what they can do is give you $250 for the next 4 years. So what that does is it allows you to know a little bit about your cash flow. It brings that individual closer into your organization, and this makes them have a greater impact to your organization and promoting something that they love and they want to see changed. So again, if you can, incorporate this into your fund development plan. Stewardship is essential, absolutely essential, and of course during this particular time. So developing donor loyalty through regular, meaningful appreciation and ongoing communication. Social distancing, I'm just reading what I've got here, and social distancing impacts traditional engagement strategies and find creative ways. So let me tell you, I'm not sure if she's on our call or not today, but there's an organization I've been doing some work with, and they want to tour. They need to tour a particular donor. They have the opportunity to tour. The donor has said, I'm interested in seeing it and seeing your shelter. And so instead of, it's not the right time to be bringing people in and out. So instead they've created this tour where they're actually being able to take the individual virtually through. And so then once we had that accomplished with the one donor, I said, well, why can't we do this with more donors and keep the engagement going? So it is important that we have to come up with some creativity during this time to figure out how do we keep people engaged. But stewardship is essential. Absolutely essential. And I don't think we have a slide on it today, but donor attrition, the drop-off rate right now is anywhere between 30 and 50%. 30 if you're doing a good job, 50 if you're doing a bad job. And I also don't mean to always scare people, but I talk about the fact that there's 26,000 nonprofits right here in Alberta, 180,000 in Canada. And so if you're not treating your donors well, somebody else will. So that's all to say, please make sure that your fund development plan, your plan going forward, is you've got a checkbox beside how it is that you're going to be stewarding your donors. So let's talk about this one. Should we really be asking for money during this crisis? Okay, Jen, we're going to evoke the hands up function in the reaction right now about, did this happen? Any in your organization, raise your hand. Was there any senior leadership that said we cannot ask for money at this time? It was a hot topic, hot topic. I think it's cooled off a little now, but it was a hot topic in the industry in March, April, May, probably into June too.
I know it's something we definitely considered at Volunteer Strathcona is, should we be asking for money right now? So it looks like we have one hand up. That was a concern for Derek, actually.
Oh, nobody else has raised their hand to say that this was a problem in their organization or a challenge?
I guess not. Nope, just Derek. Yep.
Oh, well then, too bad for Derek, and he works with Heart and Stroke. I think you had already put that, Derek, into the chat box. I hope I wasn't throwing them under the bus. This was actually, I'm quite surprised because this was an extremely hot topic, and it was also brought up in some of the comments that you had given as part of the survey here, is board members, and it's because it's so Canadian of us to go, oh, we shouldn't ask, that's not polite, this isn't a good time to ask. And so I just wanted to put this up here because I've really seen it being something to address, that it's naive of us as organizations to think that our donors might be struggling. Of course Of course, some of them are struggling. I'm quite sure that they are. However, that's not our job to do. Our job is not to assume that nobody's going to give. Because I also, I overlook this too, but the first point in this bullet is your mission still relevant? And this was actually the comment, again, as I talk about being a hot topic, I remember that, again, one of the webinars I was on, somebody had said, well, is your mission still relevant? Like, this was 3 months after COVID had hit. And all of a sudden it stopped me in my tracks. And I'm like, well, absolutely. If it, like, nothing's changed, we still need the money. We needed it in February. We still need it now. And and majority of us right now are saying that we need it even more because of COVID. So put this mindset on that if your mission is still relevant, then ask for the money. And again, do not assume. It's not your job to assume that they give. And also, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you assume nobody will give, they won't give. So Wilson
Jerome had a good comment in the chat here. How to ask was the bigger question rather than should we ask?
Oh, good question, Jerome. We'll talk. Again, it's not our job to decide for them. Here's the other thing, Jerome, don't apologize. Okay, none of us need to apologize for asking, because you have an opportunity to to make the world a better place, right? That's what you're already doing. That is the work that you're doing. That has not changed. So why is that still not reasonable that we should go out and ask for that money? And I also like to look at this, and actually a client of mine even chatted about this morning, because language is important. We are giving donors the opportunity to do something that they care about. So Jerome, when you've said, how do we ask? My comment back to you would be, are you still having do you still have a relevant cause? And how you were going to ask before, why is it different now? And here's the other thing. If somebody comes back and says, I can't give to you, this is where you get the opportunity to say, that's no problem. We still love you. We absolutely still love you. But again, this isn't COVID related. Disruptions happen in our lives all of the time. It could be, I lose my job, my husband lose my job, things happen. And all of a sudden I'm not in the position that I was to give to you, even though you don't even know that. You didn't know that my husband lost his job, but you still made the ask to us. And then I go, well, that's what's happened. So I can't give to you right now. You're still going to say to me, Jerome, I love you anyway. Thanks anyway. But you didn't precursor or prevent making that ask because you didn't know all the situation, all the circumstances. So I kind of look at the same thing with COVID. We're giving a lot of credence to COVID by allowing it to affect how we feel about asking people for money. I was going to say this to you too. Is I was on another webinar recently where the question came about, should we ask? And the speaker said, well, we've got 3 choices. One is we can say, please don't give us any money. Okay, right. Please don't give us any money. We can don't ask and leave it entirely up to them and see what happens. Or we can ask, right? So realistically, as fundraisers, our job is number 3, to ask. But then to sit back, because this was actually coming from a number of board members, but then to sit back and look at the board member who, are often the ones that say do or don't, and ask the board member themselves as a donor. Look, so let's hope that most of your board members are donors to your organization, but even remove them completely as to another one of their favorite charities and ask them, so what happens? If I called you up and I said, don't give, that's I know, almost insane, but you'd be like, what? As a donor, I'd be offended. You call me up to say, don't ask, or are you telling me on the website, don't give any money? That my reaction would be, okay, no problem. Won't give you any money today. I won't give you any money again. Deal. You could not say anything at all. Well, I don't know. I'm very rarely am I out looking for people to give money to, actively seeking. And so you probably won't get anything. Or you can ask, and then I can consider it. So completely putting myself away from the organization and going, if I got a request, I now at least consider it. If I don't get the request, I can't consider it. Anyway, just some thoughts there for your consideration going forward. Corporations. how have corporations been affected through COVID? Well, I think we all can agree on this. Checkbook philanthropy is gone. It was already well on its way out the door. And now corporations they're looking at their strategy. Just as you're sitting here to say we need to readdress our fund development strategy plan, corporations are doing the same thing. And so there were a number of corporate Canada organizations that had stepped up during COVID. And they used their contributions, though, as something to differentiate themselves from their competitors. It was, their giving was purposeful. Because you got to remember that their job here is to balance the needs of their shareholders, their employees, and us, the community. And so in best doing that, the opportunity for us is to find a tailor-made solution for organizations, like customizing partnerships, so that we can do that. We can go back to what they're trying to balance, where we're putting a partnership together where they utilize their products, they evoke and put their employees in and increase their employee engagement, and it meets our needs. So again, this takes work. And remember, if you've got a little, you know where they fit on the overall spectrum of giving. But there is opportunity here. Just don't be sending out a letter that doesn't have any information on it or any tailor information, and it's just a fill in the form or blank. Sorry, I looked at the time. We better keep moving here. So again, as you look at your plan, we are in a digital world, right? We need to meet our donors where they are. And just like us, like I had mentioned before, mobile, laptop, we're in a hyper-connected world. So those organizations who had already had some of the digital capacity, they were able to respond to COVID much quicker than we are right now, than us who don't have this infrastructure in place. So what I'm suggesting to you, take a look at your plan going forward and see, I'm sorry, I was just interrupted and I wasn't expecting to be interrupted. Sorry, so my mind just slipped off. So I'm back with you, I apologize. Getting organizations, what you need to be having here is some solid infrastructure in place. So this is investing in relationship management tools. You know, if you have a CRM or you don't have a CRM, think about the cost effectiveness. And where I'm going with this is that your donors want to be treated special, okay? Outdated systems like Excel spreadsheets, they can't support the needs of today's donors. Again, you're competing with an awful lot of people. And furthermore, once you get those tools in place, then you will go ahead and communicate with you can use those tools to help to communicate and market your organization differently. Okay, so keep that in mind because donors really want to be something tailored to them specific. And those tools that we're talking about, digital tools, can really be helping with that. Lastly, when you plan, make sure that you've got some ideas on how it is that you're going to attract the skills to use it. This is something that actually I heard from one of the community foundations is the biggest request that is coming right now through from nonprofit organizations is, can you help us to fund some technology and also the training and skills to use it so we can have the skills in-house to use it. Wanting to talk about online giving, the preference for sure for online giving continues to grow. And so is unacceptable. If any of you right now don't have an integrated donation platform on your website, and what I mean by that is if I can't go to some of your websites and hit the donate button and it launches a form, then that would be number one thing you have to do, because online giving is growing. People are making these, making their donations to us, those transactions, in front of their laptops and also coincidentally on their mobiles, on their cell phones. So 25% in fact of online donations are made on cell phones. So you have to make sure that your website is mobile friendly as well. I just put this stat up here to show that online giving is growing at 17% year over year. You know, so it's saying at 3 times the rate of overall giving. And what that is how donors are making gifts to you, right? So it's accessible. Why wouldn't we be doing it? It's accessible. It's immediate. I can do it at 10 o'clock at night. I know that it's done now. It's not having to put a ready checkout and put it in the mail and put a stamp on it. But and it's also easy for us as a charity because it's easier for us to administer because the information comes in, the tax receipt often will go out automatically, or a thank you letter. But now I really want to just, so that's part on how we are actually accepting donations, and that's that donation platform. But also I want to talk a little bit about how donations are being procured, and that for online and virtual is growing right now too. Okay, so crowdfunding. I don't know if, I don't think I have time anymore to be asking some more questions out of all of you, but crowdfunding is growing. Platforms for groups to make solicitations. Something like GoFundMe or Indiegogo or Alberta Booster. That's actually something that's here in town. So, and there's different types of crowdfunding. There's where you can just straight out ask for donations, or you can also do lending if your organization needs to borrow some money, or there's also straight out rewards based. And I don't think we've got, I know that Varscona Theatre was a past client of ours, and they're not on the call. I don't know if she's on the call or not with us right now, but I know she had registered. We did a crowdfunding campaign where we had included Nathan Fillion. And so he's the star of, at the time it was Castle. And we invited people to give, and as they gave different levels, so it was rewards based, they had a different reward that went with that level. Here's what I want to say though about crowdfunding. Its success is completely a key if either you have a large following or there is a crisis. So if you think that you go, oh, you know what, I just need a bunch of money to, we just need to raise money for this new shed that we want to put in our seniors home at the back so we can store our lawn equipment. Don't think that if you go crowdfunding that, wow, we're going to get our money. It doesn't work like that. And it's kind of disheartening because when you look at things like when you see online how certain or in the media, it's very, you know, it's high in the media when we see activities being promoted, you go, well, we should do that too. Crowdfunding. It might be for you, it might not be for you. Peer-to-peer fundraising is also something that is an online fundraising activity that is growing in leaps and bounds, right? And so that is really, it's a great mechanism in how you're going to be how you could increase awareness on your organization and increase donor involvement. Like it grows your network exponentially when you've got those people within that care about you already, asking other people to care about you. So love to think more about peer-to-peer fundraising for your organization. Text to give, ultra easy. As an organization, you can sign up for that. You're given a unique text number and a code. And what happens there is to join some of these groups, you do need to put together an administration fee of some kind or another. That's usually the case. But then what happens is your donors will text, and the company will, the cell company will collect and give the money through back to the organizing association and then back through to you. So 100%, very easy to do. Again, you want to put together a campaign specific about that. Any of these, you can't just go ahead and put them up and go, yep, that's it. The money will start to roll in. Everything is key about communicating and promoting it. Auctions, I just even bid on one again today. So there's some online auction software out there that's free. They're again from soup to nuts and everything that you want, but these are online mechanisms, fundraising tools for your consideration. Fundraising emails, still we turn, this is a third of online giving will come from fundraising emails. So going out there and making those requests, you know, e-blasts, those kinds of things, great ways to be communicating with your donor. Giving Tuesdays, giving days are coming up, right? You know, to raise awareness globally, like the fantastic days where it says, hey, the nonprofit sector needs you. And again, this year it's going to be very busy. The traffic in the network will be very busy. It's December 1st coming up. With that being said, I'm not trying to dissuade you, but make sure that you stand out of the crowd because it's becoming more and more popular. And one of the ways to stand out for the crowd that works is a challenge gift. So if you already have somebody within your organization that is given a certain amount of money, and on that day you are announcing that it will be matched or their donation will be matched, that's a great way to get attention and build some urgency and some excitement. Lastly, of course, you know, the sky's the limit. Events, challenges, all of this. Anything that you can imagine nowadays for online, and this brings us right into virtual events. I wanted to chat a little bit about this because I think for so many of us, this was paramount. This really changed our organization when we no longer could do the get-together face-to-face events. So some benefits of virtual: larger reach, right? We can expand our donor base. We no longer have to fit all the people in the room that we had talked about, or a geographic location. In fact, I was talking with an organization the other day who did a virtual event, and they were just unbelievably surprised to find out that they had a person from Vancouver and then another person from Ontario. And they were like, would have never dreamed that we had that kind of opportunity before. Also with virtual events, simpler logistics, more cost effective. We're not worried about caterers anymore. It's way, our expenses have seriously gone down. And then also, again, quicker and easier for fulfillment, because we encourage people to make those donations online, virtually. And again, it's processed right there. I think I found this one I wanted to share with you. This is a cancer institute out of the States. And so they came up with something really quite interesting, because again, none of us can be at the sporting events. And so they did a virtual filling of the seats of Fenway Park, and they sold all 37,000 seats. And so it gave, it was creative. And I think that's really what we're looking at right now in order to stand out, is for us to get creative about how we want to be promoting. Now, I wanted to ask, and again, I apologize seriously, folks, that we're falling behind here, but I did want to ask about who has hosted a virtual event and what did you learn? And maybe what we'll just do is in the chat box, is there a way for people to promote, maybe post, if you've done a virtual event that you're really, that you can talk a little bit about, and I'll keep talking because we've got 3.5 minutes left. But that way everybody else can share it and we can leave the chat function up a little bit longer. When it comes to planning a virtual event, and I'm not an expert in this at all, so that's why I was also wondering to see who else online has already done one. And I did have a chat with a great lady last night who was talking about one, and she was indicating how scared they were when they first started, because it was, wow, we've already got this event started, but now we're no longer allowed to gather. So they went and did it online and created a great success out of it. What the key of what she was, basically saying to me, and what I learned from her conversation, plus other events that I've been a part of, is you have to have a strong why. Why do you want and a strong audience experience. It's got to be engaging. So this is unfortunately, like, this is where I'm talk. You want to have an event where people have that opportunity to walk away and go, well, that's pretty cool. I got to do this and I got to do that. The group that I was talking with last night was telling me how they had, different sponsors provide items such as a lantern, as bottles of wine, because their theme was a garden event. And so they had provided these, and charcuterie. And so they had provided these to people who had signed up, who had agreed to come, who registered for the event. That's the other thing about virtual events. You have to understand that participants are expecting to pay less. It's less than they would if they were going to a live event. But again, for this lady, what she was telling me about is that they created this experience that, and it also had an auction at the same time. So, and mission moments, these are all critical things. And when I say mission moments, this is hitting home the fact that, why are people giving to you? Why would they give to you? Please don't make it, and I laugh about this because even pre-COVID, my husband and I would go to galas and we'd walk home, and, to the car at the end of the night, and I'd look at him and I'd go, so did you know who that event was for? And he's like, no. And I'm like, exactly. So please don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. When you've got a crowd gathered, either it's virtual or in person, make sure that you've got mission moments so people can hit home what it is that you're doing. And of course, promote. We can't put any of this stuff online and go, oh, that's it. This speaks back, I hearken back to having the digital strategy, a digital marketing and communication strategy. So I think a few slides back, I was talking about we're in a digital world, and we very quickly just went over the fact that communications and marketing, This isn't a webinar on communications and marketing, but it is integral. It is hand in glove right now to all of these activities that we're talking about. Is cutting through the clutter and getting our donors to recognize us. Jen, do you want to report a little bit on what you see?
Right. So I made a comment about how we hosted our annual Funders Forum this year virtually, and how rather than host this as an in-person workshop, we have a webinar. Lena commented that we found lots of people were thrilled to not have to leave the house. And Lena, I'm sure that's large in part due to your demographic, right? Your group supports single moms. And so, coming back to demographics, I'm sure that makes sense. Derek. Oh, actually, it was our support set. Oh, my apologies. Derek says, we hosted a virtual gala. It was neat to have participants engage in an auction on social media. We had the majority of sponsors actually donate their funds, even though we were not really able to fulfill the sponsorship agreement.
Huh. Oh. Mm. Okay, I've got 1 more minute left. That's thank you guys for sharing. This is also an idea for you as, again, you're looking at your plan to go, what's changed? COVID's disrupted our world. Consider creating a campaign for your organization. And what I mean by this is it could be as simple as redefining something that you're already doing, changing the goal up. But what it means is circling the troops. I call it circling the wagons or rallying the troops. It's creating a sense of urgency. It is saying, this is what's important to us. And you figure out all about how you want to position this for your organization. So it's creating a campaign. It engages donors. I also would encourage you, if you're going to go to a campaign, it's something where we can bring volunteers in to help expand their networks. So it doesn't have to be a capital campaign, which is the first thing everybody thinks of when I say, think about a campaign. Capital campaigns is a natural to this because you're going, wow, we are doing this. We're building something crazy, big, exciting. Come and enjoy our vision. And if any of you have ever been a part of that, that's the pinnacle. That's the most exciting time for an organization. It increases awareness exponentially because you have folks, volunteers out soliciting and sharing their networks, sharing information about your organization with the networks. What I'm talking about doing is something similar to that within your organization to cut through the clutter, to redefine, to get your organization, because we've been beaten down through this COVID. We all have, and we all look for a reason to be excited and celebrate. And so in the next couple of years, I just encourage you to put that hat on, that mindset on, and go, can we have a campaign? I'm not saying build a building. I'm saying, what do you have in your arsenal of what you need to be funded that the whole organization can get around, rally the troops, and reignite yourself and stand out from other organizations. I am over by 1.5 minutes and I ran that really fast. So I feel absolutely terrible. We're here at the questions stage. And I guess if anybody wants to stay online, you can do that, or we'll probably stop the recording now so other people